When the scan isn't the story. Incidental rotator cuff tears on MRI are found in almost every adult over 40, yet most of those people have no shoulder pain. This matters more than many people realise. Key points. Almost 99% of adults aged 41 to 76 show rotator cuff abnormalities on MRI. Most of these people have no shoulder pain. Once clinical examination findings are considered, MRI tears lose their statistical relationship with pain. Structural change does not automatically mean damage. In gradual, atraumatic musculoskeletal pain, symptoms and function matter more than the image. Imaging should answer a clinical question, not replace one. Why Symptoms Matter More Than Imaging, by Sue Palmer, the Horse Physio. When we talk about incidental rotator cuff tears on MRI, it's easy to assume the scan tells the whole story. A client came to see me recently with severe pain in his right elbow. He'd already booked a GP appointment and was hoping the doctor would send him for a scan. This wasn't a sudden injury, no dramatic fall, no single moment he could recall. Instead, it had been creeping in for years. Intermittent stiffness and discomfort, worse on waking. In the past week, though, the pain had intensified. He was actually booked in to see me for something entirely different, prevention and performance treatment, as he's running a half marathon in 3 weeks. We work together regularly to support his body through physical challenges like this. He mentioned the elbow and the hope for a scan, almost in passing. What followed is a conversation I have often. The scan is information, not a diagnosis. I explained that what he'd described sounded very much like soft tissue and neural irritation, gradual overload rather than acute structural damage. I suggested he keep his GP appointment. We must always rule out what needs ruling out. But in the meantime, we could take a conservative physiotherapy approach, mobilise the joint, address soft tissue restrictions, reduce neural sensitivity, and see what changed. Because here's the key. Imaging findings only matter when they match symptoms and clinical examination. We've known for decades that what we see on scans does not always match what people feel. In 1994, Jensen et al. Demonstrated that many people with no back pain have disc bulges or protrusions on MRI. Prinjikji et al. 2015 confirmed this across age groups. Matsumoto, 1998, showed similar findings in the cervical spine. England, 2008, demonstrated incidental meniscal tears in pain-free knees. Okada, 2019, showed thoracic disc changes common in asymptomatic individuals. Structural change does not equal pain. But what truly stopped me in my tracks was a 2026 study published in JAMA Internal Medicine. The study, by Abunig et al., 2026, examined 602 adults aged 41 to 76 from a nationally representative Finnish cohort. Every participant underwent detailed symptom questioning, standardised clinical shoulder examination, bilateral MRI, independent radiological review. The findings? 98.7% of participants had rotator cuff abnormalities on MRI, almost 99%. Yet only 18% reported shoulder pain at the time. Let that sink in. 25% had tendinopathy, 62% had partial thickness tears, 11% had full thickness tears. And of the 96 full thickness tears identified, 78% were found in shoulders with no pain at all. Yes, incidental rotator cuff tears on MRI, full thickness tears, silent. Even more striking, once researchers adjusted for clinical examination findings, the relationship between MRI-detected tears and pain disappeared. In other words, the clinical exam predicted pain better than the scan. You can read the study. The grey hair analogy. I've heard it explained like this. Incidental rotator cuff tears on MRI in a 50-year-old are often the internal equivalent of a grey hair. It tells us you're living, moving, ageing. It does not automatically mean you're damaged, you're broken, you need surgery, you should stop using your arm. You only worry about the grey hair if the scalp underneath is infected, inflamed, or dysfunctional. Similarly, a tear becomes clinically relevant when it matches severe weakness, reproducible pain on specific loading tests, or functional limitation. A tear without pain is simply an age-related change. A tear with concordant clinical findings is a meaningful diagnosis. The difference matters enormously. Back to the elbow. We decided to treat his elbow, not focus on running performance that day. We mobilised the joint, addressed soft tissue restriction, reduced neural irritation, gave him simple load guidance. 3 days later, he described it as feeling 1 billion times better. He cancelled his GP appointment. That doesn't mean he'll never need medical input in future. None of us can predict that. But at this stage, conservative management worked beautifully. And I suspect most people would prefer mobilisation and strengthening over medication or surgery when appropriate. Why this matters for humans and horses. This isn't anti-scan. Imaging is invaluable when clinically indicated. Trauma, infection, tumour, red flags. But imaging should answer a clinical question, not replace one. In horses, I see this too. A finding becomes the focus. Labels create fear. Owners worry that their horse is damaged. Yet, just like the human shoulder, equine bodies accumulate structural change with age and work. In Understanding Horse Performance, Brain, Pain or Training, and in Harmonious Horsemanship, co-authored with Dr. Sue Dyson, we discuss repeatedly how clinical presentation must guide interpretation. Structure without context is just information. Function tells the story. The clinical priority shift. This 2026 study shifts the priority clearly. For gradual, atraumatic musculoskeletal pain, hands, history, and functional testing matter more than the picture. Your symptoms are relevant. Your movement patterns are relevant. Your load history is relevant. The scan is a piece of the puzzle, not the puzzle itself. And often, reassurance plus skilled conservative treatment can change everything.